This is the global economic rut, a world in which most cannot escape. There has been an attempted rescue of the financial system from the repo actions of the Fed, the excessive money printing, and on the economic side, we watch as the governments go further and further into debt to try and fill the holes in this proverbial boat. Sadly, this is all just a cover for a massive transfer of wealth and control to the globalist elite. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Way too much truth in that introduction. I'm going to show you what's happening today. We are going to look at what's going on with the store closures. We're going to talk about the economy. I'm going to talk about what's happening with businesses in general, show you some examples. I'm going to get into the details, of course, of the stock market and the excesses happening there. There is way too much in this one episode, but I gotta cram it all in. Let's begin. This is an article out of Business Insider, and it's interesting the wording they use here. They refer to what we are dealing with today as a depression. And it will be much worse than the last worldwide recession because this time no country is strong enough to rescue the global economy. Very interesting words, very interesting way to put it. The story of the Great Depression goes like this. The US and Europe were crippled while working to clean up their devastated banking system. The global services sector suffered without its biggest player, the US consumer engine. But global economic growth didn't completely fall off a cliff because other countries kept money moving around the planet. Essentially, they're talking about India, they're talking about China. This time around, however, everybody is kind of dealing with the same issues. One country might be having a problem to a certain degree, and another country might be dealing with it in a different way. But regardless, everything's moving slower. We are seeing prices that have been elevated on the consumer side. We have seen a lot of concern and worry from businesses that have kind of stepped back and haven't been able to expand because of that uncertainty. This puts a big damper on the economy as a whole. And of course, if we are dealing with that on a global scale, it's not as if it was before 2000. In the years before 2000, you would have some countries doing well, some countries doing great, and there was always an opportunity somewhere. But right now, the world is becoming more synchronized, at least with the stock market. But here today, the economy is in the same position. Everything is basically moving in lockstep together, and that really isn't a good thing. A lot of people do see it as a good thing on the way up, but certainly we'll all be feeling it on the way down. And right now, a big group of people is feeling it hard. This article here is talking about what's going on with mortgage delinquencies. Check this out. With the income supplements and the unemployment benefits now expired or reduced, we face a new wave of mortgage and rental delinquencies, many of which will come in the next few months. And that's important. That's key to understand. If people look at the data today, they'll say, you know what, not that bad. We can deal with this. We've done it before. But the worst is yet to come. According to the Mortgage Bankers Association, as of June 30th, mortgage delinquency in the US had reached 8.2%, the highest since 2011, and it's almost double the 4.5% of a year earlier. With 53 million mortgages in the US, that means more than 4 million mortgages are delinquent. Almost 5 million homes are in forbearance. With that, I estimate that at least 1 million to 2 million more of these loans will fall delinquent before the end of this year. As for renters, looking at July's data, 18% were delinquent in their rent payments. That compares with less than 7% in the years prior. With more than 43 million renters, that means more than 7.4 million are behind on their rental payments. This is going to be just shocking to see all of this data as we move out of it. And I know it's going to really be a problem for so many, and the numbers will grow and get worse. This is something I showed to you previously, but it's going to lead me into something right now. So I just wanted to give it to you once again really quickly. This is from KPMG. They produced this report, and it's talking about how people are traveling less. They are not needing to go to work, so we are seeing a lot less cars on the road. In April, the total VMT dropped an unprecedented 64%. Okay, we're talking about how many vehicle miles driven. There are a lot of businesses today that have decided to go part-time work from home, some full-time work from home. That means not only is it going to impact what we're looking at with the auto industry for obvious reasons, the subways, the buses, all the people that work for that system, but all of the others that you don't necessarily see. For example, the little shops that used to be places where people would congregate. Now, if they're working at home, they don't need that. Those services, those businesses, sure, it might be a mom and pop with just one person there, but one person here or there, they start to add up rather quickly. This article here is talking about credit cards, and the reason that I bring it up is simply that so many people have found themselves in debt. They don't have the income coming through, they have less income, and as a result, they are using their credit cards, they're using any form of debt in order to pay off the expenses that they have to. In fact, as I just showed you in maybe 2 videos ago, so much money, billions and billions of dollars, have been pulled out of the equity of properties. And as a result, people are more indebted. The ratio is absurd right now, something like 93.6% being debt on average that people have in their homes. I mean, it's just truly mind-boggling to see what the business of a bank have actually created. They've created a product that keeps people trapped in it for 30 years and hopefully even longer if they can do that, because they sell that house once they can get a raise or something, and then they move to a bigger house that's a bigger mortgage and so on. It's crazy. This is the way it works. But regardless, in this article here talking about credit cards, people, as their credit drops, they pay a higher interest rate, so they're getting further burdened by it. But it goes with everything, no matter what we're looking at. The globalist elite, when they're the Goldman Sachs and the JP Morgans, they're borrowing at 0. You're borrowing at 15 or 17 or 20 or beyond. And of course, that's going to make it more and more difficult for a growing number of people to be able to sustain themselves during this period of time. This is an article out of the Wall Street Journal, and it's talking about what's happening with the stock market and other issues that are taking place today. I do not have time to get into it all. You can see on the left-hand side, share price and index performance this week, and you'll look at the S&P 500 down a few percent, but underneath that, Tesla, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and so on, all of them had some very poor performance after a huge, massive run-up. And this is what I wanted to know before I move on to the next one. Price gains for some of the bellwether tech stocks, they were astronomical. And that's a word that I tend to use because it's going up like a rocket ship. When there is basically no down days, you have to start wondering what the heck is going on. There is always going to be ups and downs, or at least there should be. And it could be trending up. It could be trending up further and further, but it could be trending down further and further, but you're always going to see these ups and downs, except when you look at US tech stocks, because it has been basically just a straight line day after day after day after day, no matter what scandals, no matter what problems, no matter what they face. And that resilience perhaps could be exuberance, or more specifically, irrational exuberance. The sell-off saw mega-cap growth stocks underperform the rest of the S&P 500. You don't hear that too often. The orange line being the mega-cap growth stocks, and the green line is the S&P 500 excluding the mega-cap growth. And I just wanted to show you the difference between those two. The green line, as we have supposedly entered this V-shaped recovery, looks nothing but, a disaster if you ask me. And then you look at the orange, the performance has been absolutely insane. Very few stocks are really rising at this time, and this chart shows us that specifically. Quick update on the derivatives, something that I've brought up so many times before, talked about it in both my books. Over-the-counter derivatives, notional amount outstanding by risk category, directly from the biz. At the bottom, you see the legend, credit derivatives, interest rate, and so on. All I'm trying to highlight here is that this has been growing over the last few years, but it is not at the peak of where it was previously, the total amount. But come on, we're talking about several times larger than the entire entire global economy. These derivatives could completely spiral out of control, just as they ultimately do very regularly, but this information doesn't get covered. So the sheer magnitude is, number one, a risk. But when you learn about all the garbage that's actually in them, in many cases, that is another level. I want to talk about this quickly, and then I'm going to move through the remainder really fast. The big corporate rescue and the America that's too small to save. Sadly, this is for many people. Look, they're going to give individuals $1,200 paycheck. They're going to give them unemployment, 300, 600, whatever the number is. And it is never enough. It's never going to be enough because of how expensive things are. Why are things so expensive? Well, if you want some truth, we know that it is the central bank that creates that inflation. They print money, they expand the entire money supply, and as a result, the total pool basically gets diluted. And they're doing this on all levels. The money is so cheap, so the banks can create their loans out of thin air. They're using fractional reserve banking. Now they don't even need to have reserves. Why the heck not? It's a party and everyone's invited. But if you are an individual that relies on his credit card because you just lost your job because of this and that, oh yeah, you're going to pay 20%. You're going to be dealing with the real problems that those in the revolving door that are connected and in fact above the governments never have to deal with. It's funny that people get distracted by this people they see on television and they're nonsense. There isn't anything that they say, the suits and ties, that is of relevance. You know, if you want a good laugh once in a while, sure, it's all fun, but they're not making decisions. All right, going through this quickly. Department store Century 21 files for bankruptcy, will shut down. Las Vegas monorail company files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. GameStop will close at least 400 stores this year. Delta Airlines to furlough, love that word, 1941 pilots, nearly 2,000 pilots in October, according to an internal memo. Singapore Air cuts 20% of workforce as they post a record loss in the first quarter through June. Ford wants to cut 1,400 salaried jobs in the US. Between the airlines and what we're seeing with the auto industry, it is just intense. Amtrak tells employees it will furlough 1,950, nearly 2,000 workers, cuts to be effective October 1st. And then a quick update coming from CoreSite. Their new total for the 2020 retail store closures is just over 7,800. The number of year-to-date openings, as far as I'm aware, has not budged. All of those supposed openings came right at the beginning of the year where everybody was gung-ho, everybody's ready to go, let's open stores, it's going to be so fantastic, and then oops. So I don't actually think that they're going to open this many. This is announcements, by the way. I really don't see anything happening this year in terms of the openings, but that's where they were at. Basically in January, store closures will continue to pile up. As I've said so many times before, it's not just about that store. It's just not about that business. It's not about the individuals that work there. It's the economy as it relates to that, the snowball effect, the domino effect, the ripple effect, use whatever word you want. If we can simply address the fact that this is devastating, we can then have a look at what's at the deeper detail and try to make some sense of it all. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you're supporting me. I want to thank you for that. If you want to learn how to make money online, I'm talking about e-commerce. As all of these stores are shutting down, more people are going towards e-commerce, but many people lack the skill. And that's why I created this course for free, because I'm a fearmonger and I never give solutions. So you can check it out for free, theamazongps.com. Do you want to understand the financial system from top to bottom, A to Z? I'm talking about everything you need to know. It's all available in these two books. You can get that at the link in the description. And if you want the audiobook instead, themoneygps.com. Wait a second, don't go anywhere. You've got to see this video. There's solutions and understanding and details, and it was my worst performing video in a long time. Nobody wanted to see it. Do you? Click it. I'll see you there.